Hey, it's Molly. Welcome back as we're going to look at the chart for a super Cancer soul, a stellium here of planets in Cancer, Moon, Mercury, Sun, Jupiter, and Mars. In this series, we're looking at these unique charts, and I'm also intentionally working with charts across different spans of time, years, and generations. So this chart is dated July 9th, 2002, making this individual about 20 to 23 years old. And I do happen to know just a little about this individual's story, which is that when the mother was pregnant with him, the father passed away. Now, important to note here that as I'm discussing these charts, I don't know this individual's full life or experience. And when you're looking at a chart, you don't know either unless you're in a conversation with that person. So we can never make assumptions or think we know all the answers about who someone is or what their life is simply based on an astrology chart, because there's way too many unknowns. So for example, Chiron in Capricorn, opposing Mercury and the Moon in Cancer, explains the loss of a father, but you can't say that for every person who has Chiron in Capricorn. We just happen to know that, so it adds in to the story of this individual's path. And so I do want to emphasize that, because I've done enough sessions with enough people to know that you always have to be in conversation to hear their experience, to hear their consciousness, their choices, their energy. It is their energy. It is their life. And so that's important to note here, especially when we're dealing with something as specific as the father dying during the mother's pregnancy. Clearly, this would then bring alive more of the individual's path. It also then brings up more of the Saturn conjunct the North Node in Gemini, two dads, two understandings of fatherhood, two ways of creating a relationship or a soul growth connection with a father figure. Those are all potential interpretations as we understand more about someone's story. Okay, so I had to say all that. Now let's get to the fact that this is clearly an individual who came in to have a deeper experience in trusting himself, trusting what he feels without shutting down what he feels, being aware that this is a superpower and that Cancer energy is very intuitive and very aware of what's going on in the environment, and to trust that, to trust what is being understood or picked up, to trust what one is feeling, and to allow that to be a really important part of the navigation system here in this individual's life. Now, with this focus on Cancer energies, as with all stelliums, it means there's a heightened connection to this understanding, and this would make the individual very sensitive, empathetic, very aware of what is going on all around. I mean, I look at this Jupiter conjunct Mars. This could be big feelings, a lot of reactions, perhaps a lot of sensitivity that's defensive or reactionary on the lower end of the scale. This individual came in with a very big soul contract to his mom. And of course, that's Cancer, is the mother, and feeling quite connected and attached to the mother. Also, the mother is a very important guidance system here. When we see the moon in its home sign of Cancer, conjunct Mercury, the messenger and communicator, how the mother speaks, communicates, and connects to this individual really has an effect on his psyche, his understanding of the world and his place in it, who he is, and what he's good at. When I see a chart with a lot of Cancer energy, it tells me that this is someone who needs to feel connected and needs to be supported, because this energy wants to give and receive and to have that mutual exchange of energy, trust, and emotion. And this could be someone who has always been really sensitive. So again, this is someone who's 22 or 23 years old as I record this in the middle of 2025. And whenever I see a lot of Cancer and Pisces energies especially, I always recommend the book, The Highly Sensitive Person by Dr. Elaine Aron, and how the highly sensitive individual is going to move through the world with different senses, experiences, and feelings that need to be validated and need to be understood as a beautiful gift that they're working with. Otherwise, there can be a lot of overwhelm here, especially when there's a lot of water in a chart, as there is here. And the water is also what's meant to flow through this individual regularly. So they would also need regular energy clearing, emotional cleansing, anything that supports the flow of movement and allowing every day to end so that the new day can begin. The Cancer energy can be quiet and internal. There can be a very rich inner world that is very alive and very much connected to everything that you are sensing, creating, feeling. And so there would need to be support here for how to work with a rich internal emotional world. And I would also suggest with a lot of water is that there needs to be an emotional process to support trusting himself. And that will just be part of his journey and part of understanding what he is mastering in this life. Now, there is this Venus in bold, strong Leo. So this will support what he wants, what he desires, what he values, his style. And that's great for having a little bit of that fire energy here that allows him to know more of who he is. I feel like this is a very creative, this is someone who has, again, that rich internal creative world, and that Venus in Leo is what is expressed and what is seen. So we also have, as I mentioned, that Saturn in Gemini conjunct the North Node being one's soul growth path. And that North Node in Gemini is learning to ask questions, to be curious, to be mentally engaged, and to develop communication skills. Saturn conjunct the North Node brings in the appropriate mentors, elders, and authority figures that can help with that, but also challenge it, because that is part of the Saturn energy, where you're meant to understand what the mind needs and to have developed communication skills that you're continually mastering and applying. When I see this Saturn conjunct the North Node, there's something about this lifetime of coming into one's own with mastery over the Gemini energy. So certainly a teacher, being a very caring teacher, a caregiver, hospitable, wanting to work with people, to support them, to guide them. And that will be something that this individual could potentially excel at. The teaching energy, being able to stand on his own, and also an awareness of what others need and what others want from him. Now, he is of the generation that has Neptune and Uranus in very spicy, exciting Aquarius. And so that activates the mind as well as the bigger picture of one's life, of what is possible, of what one is here to consider, experience, and contribute. So this is someone who could also feel a need to contribute to their local community, to be a part maybe of some groups or teams or sports or places where there's a sense of belonging. And when you look at both the Aquarius and the Cancer energies, we have a sense of a tribe, needing a family or support system, needing others on the same page who connect through the shared interests, activities, passions, and wanting to have the right connections that feel good. And so if this individual really excels at something, is good at it, is known for being Leo is competitive, but Venus and Leo can be competitive. So it's like if they're really known for being good at something, needing others who can provide the support, the validation, recognition, and then a bigger opening into the world could be also a nice way of sensing I belong, I'm good here, this is where I'm meant to be. That Uranus does trine Saturn in Gemini. I'm going to say it's a trine even though it's 6 degrees apart. They're in a dialogue here about how to use one's gifts in the world, how to contribute and put oneself out into the world authentically. And this is the focused intention on doing so. There could be a seriousness here to what education one is drawn to, what there is a desire to learn. But in Gemini, it's often 2 areas. So that could be even 2 separate career paths at some point. Then the opposite side of the chart here is where the South Node in Sagittarius is. It's not drawn on the chart because people often get the 2 confused between the South Node and the North Node. So if you only see one node on a chart, it's the North Node. So then we can see that Pluto would be conjunct that South Node in Sagittarius. So this brings up that it's a lifetime of dealing with unfinished karmic battles, power struggles, energies from other belief systems, locations, cultures, foreign, expansive energies that one, for example, might travel to a foreign location and meet up with a power system or energies there that are connected to a past life. There would be some powerful soul contracts to be aware of here. And there would also need to be some things that need to be worked through in Sagittarius. So this could be, for example, if somebody was very powerful in a religion, church, congregation in another lifetime, their belief system was very controlling, or they were someone who had a lot of control and power. That might be something that they encounter in this lifetime that is a beginning point to move away from and move towards more of the curiosity in Gemini, where, okay, I have these opinions, beliefs, assumptions, dogma, and this is a lifetime of working through all that, powerfully owning my part of it, what is true for me now, what's not true for me now, having life-changing experiences that evolve and transform somebody. Like you arrive connected to a certain religion or cultural practices with that South Node, and then throughout your lifetime you're struggling with it or reevaluating it or determining if it still matches up with your empowered beliefs. And then the energy moves towards the North Node in Gemini, again, the curiosity, asking questions, gathering more specifics, examples. And this Saturn here is the responsible nature of thinking things through. Now, this is a chart of someone who was born after the Saturn, Pluto opposition of 2001, which was about challenging ideologies, philosophies, what we think, and the power struggles that are involved in that. So ideological wars, the power of opinions. There's intensity, and I would say it is built into this chart since Pluto's conjunct the South Node and Saturn is conjunct the North Node. So this is a lifetime of reevaluating one's long-held beliefs, which could bring up fears around where to go, where to seek connection, and could be an area that this individual has a high sensitivity around those topics for deep karmic reasons. It might not be fully conscious. And the Cancer energy feels a lot personally. So there's also a theme here of working with that if it's an extreme, to step back and practice detachment, which can also be what Chiron in Capricorn brings up, of how can I be better at these Capricorn qualities that might feel quite foreign, but the more they are mastered and practiced, that Chiron is the key to a beautiful gift. And it could be that it's through practicing more objectivity and detachment that there's a sense of I don't have to care so much or carry so much, because that Cancer energy is what we care and carry. We absorb it in, or we just feel it maybe so personally that it's held on to. So this is someone who needs to have ways of squeezing out the sponge and knowing, like, this is not about me, or this is not about that. Like there needs to be responsibility around one's emotional energy and one's personal energy. The Cancer energy can also like to hermit, and so there would need to be boundaries around one's time, energy, focus, and effort. And that is actually another theme with the water signs, especially Cancer and Pisces, is boundaries. Both the boundaries that are established to others and allowing others into one space. So it's the giving and receiving of how boundaries work is a big deal for the Cancer energies. This individual came in with a really big heart, and probably a heart that cares a lot, feels a lot, is very aware of what's going on, wants to give and support, wants to be there. I mean, this is certainly an amazing friend. This is someone who will do anything for you and who will be there, at the drop of a hat to get something done or to support you. And so this individual also needs others who do the same for them, where they're receiving. So make sure that the Cancer energy isn't shutting out the healthy receptivity and the ability to take in what you need to, because you deserve to be supported as well. Of course, because the soul contract with the mother is so big, we don't know what the mother's chart is, but that would also be a factor in how this individual feels and in the support, connection, and validation that comes from a mother figure. Clearly, the mother is represented by the moon conjunct Mercury, which is someone who wants to give verbal affirmation, who wants to support learning, communications, having a safe place to go to talk about what's on one's mind. And I'm also noticing how the sun, even though it's a part of the stellium and it's in the middle of the Cancer degrees, the sun is not highly aspected here. The sun is experiencing a yod from Pluto, making it in conjunct, and Neptune. And so there's a yod, a pressure point here. A yod is a finger of God. This yod connects the individual to feeling a bigger purpose in this lifetime and a need to explore one's guiding ideologies and belief systems and to close out and allow a transformation to happen, because remember, it's conjunct the South Node. And so this sun is in an interesting place because that finger of God aspect is pointing at the sun to fully develop emotional power, strength, and trust in oneself. And that's going to be key here to then how the individual feels that they're going to contribute to the world and make a difference in a way that matters to them. This is probably someone who needs a lot of downtime, who wants to be left alone, and that would be appropriate for the energy to refuel as well as release whatever is going on here internally. And I would say also a creative habit or way to move all those feelings and sensations and everything that's going on in a way that's healthy. Healthy, satisfying, productive. There's an inconsistency with the strong Cancer energy too, especially this Jupiter conjunct Mars, where some days all the energy, other days zero energy. So needing a lifestyle that will work with the individual's need, or basically the individual's energy expression of, I have a lot of energy today and I don't have any energy the next day. This would be someone who should track the moon and pay attention to what they're experiencing around the lunar cycle as guidance for what their Cancer energies are picking up on, because it can be very unconscious, but it can really explain the energy levels and the movement with this Mars conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. So this is certainly a very kind, loving, big-hearted individual who is here to give and connect, needs the right connections, needs to be discerning in connections, could be an overgiver and not be happy with some relationships or friendships if they're not reciprocal. So definitely needs to put a priority on what they need, and to know that the right people are going to give in return, and notice the beautiful, compassionate energy that this being has. So as always, thank you for joining me as I make my way through this series and we hit upon all 12 astrology signs. You can find the playlist here on my YouTube channel. And I hope it helps you in maybe understanding more about your own chart if you have many planets in a particular sign. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you back here soon.